I need you to get some oxygen in your lungs. But as usual, we got 3 fights you're going to focus on this week. Actually, we never got to finish talk about which ones you're going to do. So give me your first one right now. Which one you're going to break down?
Well, obviously, the first one I'm going to break down is the big fight of the weekend, Sergey Kovalev and Jean Pascal.
All right, that's a good fight. I like the fight. What do you think? Break it down for me.
Well, when you break it down, you got to look at both of these men, and you got to put them into perspective. Jean Pascal, number one, has been very inactive over the last couple of years. He has a lot of strengths, some that Kovalev hasn't really dealt with. One thing is he's very awkward. Pascal also likes to fight rough, and he tries to frustrate guys. He'll hit behind the head often when he can. If you watch his past fights, you'll see it a lot. But he's easy to figure out besides being awkward and repetitive. That's his problem, repetitiveness. Being the fact he likes to fight dirty kind of changes around, the fact that he is so repetitive, that thing, he throws opponents off with that. One of his biggest weaknesses is that he throws wide and he fights with his hands down. Pascal is what people used to call a 4-round fighter, even though, he's a world champion, he has won 12 rounds. But he slows down and gasses out after 4 to 6 rounds. He needs to set a pace that suits him. That's what gave him so much success against Hopkins in their first fight, because Hopkins, Bill, has never been known to be a guy who fights a quick pace. That's why Pascal was able to, fight, in full mode in those last couple rounds.
Yeah.
The last time we seen Pascal go 12 rounds and look like, he wasn't empty is when he fought Lucien Bute. The reason for that was Lucien Bute was just coming off being by Carl Froch over in the UK. Bute was very tentative in that fight, and that's what allowed Pascal to look good. But when Bute finally did let his hands go those last 2 rounds, not only did he hurt Pascal, but he outboxed him easily.
Yeah, Pascal, I know he's a warrior and stuff, but I think you hit on some great points. And you're right. I think the best fights that he had was the Bernard Hopkins. I just personally, I don't think he stands a chance against Kovalev. Break down Kovalev and how he's gonna. I'm sure you're picking Kovalev, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm picking on Kovalev. As for Kovalev, his best wins, they're over Nathan Cleverly, Bernard Hopkins, Ismail Salah, Cedric Agnew. He's been walking through guys one right after the other. Not only has he been walking through them, but he's been outboxing him. His speed is deceptive, and he's also very accurate. He showed he can fight any style. What really bothers me is Bernard Hopkins, when they fought, was rated in the top 5 pound for pound at the most. After he dominated Hopkins, all of a sudden Hopkins was an old man. No credit to Kovalev. You have to give Kovalev all the credit in the world, because Hopkins, no matter how old he is, Hopkins is crafty. He's always been crafty. Hopkins, when it comes to his ring savvy, fits right up in there with the old mongoose Archie Moore. Bernard Hopkins was not able to sit there and trick Kovalev into falling into any of his tactics. He was able to do that with Jean Pascal more than once. Pascal, he's going to come in there and he's going to try and throw Kovalev off. The only question we have in that, Bill, is, like I said, Kovalev, we've never seen him in a dirty fight. But Kovalev, because he adjusts so well, what I think is he's going to deal with Pascal the first couple of rounds. John David Jackson is going to tell him exactly how to deal with Pascal, what's going to come out of Pascal, because Pascal is so predictable. Kovalev is going to ride it out. Pascal is going to gas out at the 6th round, the latest. Kovalev is going to see that he's wide open. He's going to hit Pascal at will. Pascal may not go down, but he's going to take a one-sided beating. And I'm going to go out on the ledge, despite Pascal's great chin. I say Kovalev stops him somewhere around the 9th round. That's my official pick.
You know what? I agree. I think Kovalev is going to stop him. And I think that the Kovalev fight against Bernard Hopkins, we all knew that Kovalev had power. We all knew that, at least most of us knew that he was more, multidimensional than just a power puncher. But I believe in the Bernard Hopkins fight for Kovalev, even though Hopkins is 50 years old, I think Kovalev showed, patience, and I think he's going to need to use patience against Pascal, and I'm with you on that pick, my man. I too like Kovalev in that fight. What's the next one you want to break down?
Yeah, well, I just remember in Pascal's last fight, he only went 2 rounds against Belinzi. And that was a fight that, Pascal, once again, hit behind the head, and Belanti looked for a way out, and he went down even though he wasn't. So, something. Pascal, he's rusty on top of it. Next fight we're going to break down, of course, is Zar Glasgow against Steve Cunningham.
All right.
Glasgow, he's undefeated, Bill, but his resume is a bit misleading. His biggest win came over a battle-worn Thomas Adamek. Not taking any away from the win, Adamek signed a contract, but Adamek had some gifts leading up to that fight, one including against Steve Cunningham not too long ago. Before that fight took place against Derek Rossi, Glasgow was given a gift decision. Rossi was supposed to be a stay-busy fight that made him look good, but Rossi beat him to the punch in every case. Rossi was robbed by the judges. He wasn't beaten by Czar Glasgow, in my opinion, by the opinion of a lot of people. Glasgow also doesn't adjust well. Me and you were up at Verona when he fought Garrett Wilson, another fighter who was supposed to make Glasgow look good. He gave Glasgow hell. I know that Wilson struggled just to make the heavyweight limit. I was standing next to Nassim Richardson the whole time, and we spoke in between rounds, and Nassim told me that, they had their fingers crossed when Garrett Wilson went on the scale. Wilson barely was able to make the weight. I was also told that, Wilson had to, put down a couple good meals the day before the fight to make sure that he made the weight. Glasgow is well-rounded. He doesn't have overly impressive power, though. He's been speaking a lot about his personal life. I know he went through some turmoil over the last few years. There was a loss in family. I think it was his grandmother who he was very close with. There was some issues in the Ukraine. He says now he's fully concentrated. He has a full camp, and all that's behind him. Now, I'm not doubting the effect that has on him and had on him because, that's a lot to go through at one time. But the man across from him went through a lot, maybe, possibly a lot more during that same time, and he managed to be successful. Steve Cunningham. Steve, like we said, managed to go on through his whole career during all the time and all the turmoil that he had with Kennedy and her health. Kennedy's doing well now. She's underwent her heart transplant, and Steve Cunningham has been able to, 100% dedicate himself to this fight. Steve Cunningham has never been a power puncher, not even at cruiserweight. He's always been a pure boxer. At heavyweight, he's reinvented himself a little bit. My one thing that I always look to Steve Cunningham as a flaw, Bill, is he's been drawn a few times into brawls when he could have boxed. He did it at cruiserweight. He did it at heavyweight. He did it with Amir Mansour. Steve Cunningham, though, has never been stopped. Been down a lot of times, but he's never been stopped except when he fought Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury is much, much bigger and much, much stronger than Czar Glasgow. And Steve Cunningham pretty much outboxed him most of the time until Fury was able to pin him down and use his weight and just wear him down physically. Since then, if you see Steve's fights, Steve is kind of like, and I remember they mentioned this in the press conferences, but it's true, he's kind of like Rocky Balboa was in Rocky III against Clubber Lang in the rematch, where Rocky just constantly moved around, used his jab, and he tired his guys out. Glasgow is not that fleet on his feet, and I think Steve Cunningham is going to do exactly that. He's going to use his feet. He's going to keep Glasgow turning and turning. Every time Glasgow turns around before he can get set, Steve is going to pump the jab into his face, and pretty much I think he's going to be able to beat Czar Glasgow in this fight with nothing more than 1-2s if that's what he chooses to. I also think Steve is in a place inside his mind right now where all his personal problems, are at a point where he can rest and relax a little bit. He can concentrate a little bit more. He knows that, he's so very close to one more big shot if he wins this. And, that's going to, overall, that's going to be the advantage for Steve Cunningham. He wants it a little bit more. He has more experience. He's studied more. He has Nassim Richardson in the corner. And Nassim Richardson has been across from Czar Glasgow's corner more than once. So he knows a little bit about the man. And he also knows that the man can't adjust during fights. I think Steve Cunningham wins a wide unanimous decision.
Yeah, I'm picking Cunningham, too. What's your third fight?
My third fight is, it's not a meaningful fight in terms of the sports rankings and where they go, but, it's meaningful in terms of, it's the end of one of these two guys' career if they lose, Andre Berto and Josecito Lopez.
Okay, how do you see it?
Well, Berto, he's a former two-time welterweight title holder. He went from being a squared-up boxer who had a little bit of pop to his punches to a guy who suddenly thinks he needs to wage war, Bill. Why? I don't know. He's never been the same since his 2011 fight against Victor Ortiz. Very entertaining. The fans loved it. But, Berto was never able to bounce back from it. I think, Berto, after that fight, he kind of reminds me, of a former heavyweight great, that the worst thing that ever happened to him is he learned he can take a punch and get back up. Berto sat there, he waged war with Guerrero, it cost him. He tried to wage war with a big welterweight, and Jesus Soto harassed him, he was stopped. He beat Steve Upshur Chambers last September, won a unanimous decision. He kind of looked good there. Steve Upshur Chambers, though, is not exactly an elite fighter, number one. Number two, Berto still has not managed to fix that squared-up stance of his. And that is, it's a big flaw for a guy that wants to sit there and he wants to trade. His power is a bit overrated. I don't know if Berto can ever truly recover from his last 3 wars in 5 fights. He lost all 3 of those wars, and his last 2 wins out of those 5 fights, not so impressive. Across the ring, questioning Josecito Lopez, what does he have left? This is another guy who loves going to war. That's why they call him the Riverside Rocky. Yes, Lopez has been his fair share of wars as well. He has 6 losses, but his genuine losses really are only 2. Early in his career, he's had majority loss decisions to Edgar Santana by split decision. He lost early to Wes Ferguson. In his third pro fight, he lost to Rodrigo Lopez, but he's never dominated in any of those fights, and they were at a lower weight class. The only time he's ever been truly dominated was against Canelo Alvarez. When he lost by knockout to Marcos Maidana, he was actually up on 2 of the 3 scorecards when he lost in the 6th round. He didn't take a beating until that 6th round. Lopez is a better boxer than credited for. I would say he's a little braver than he should be at times because he is a true 140-pound fighter who started out at 135. He was kind of thrown in deep inside that 154-pound fight. He wasn't supposed to win that fight against Victor Ortiz. That was supposed to be, a warm-up for Ortiz to go and face Canelo because Ortiz at that point in time, he was on a run. He was rejuvenating his career. Lopez, instead, he upset the apple cart. So, I'm looking at this right here. Lopez is the fresher of the 2. He's a live underdog against anybody, and against anybody else but Andre Berto, I would have to pick against Lopez. But if they go to war, Lopez is going to get the better of it because he is better off physically. Berto has not managed to fix the squared-up stance. If Berto boxes, he will get the better of it for a while, but then Lopez is going to do exactly what he did against Victor Ortiz. He's going to wait for a lull. He's going to go after him. He's not a big puncher, but he's going to be able to take advantage of an abuse and beat up Andre Berto. My final prediction for that one is, I say, Josecito Lopez wins this by stoppage.
Wow. I haven't officially picked that fight yet because I haven't had a chance to see the corner of Berto, because to me, a lot of the chaos in his corner was the reason that he had trouble. You're right, and you make a great point about Andre Berto not really improving. He's the same Andre Berto that we saw 5 years ago. I love Josecito Lopez. I think that he's actually small, even considering, him getting a little older. At best, you hit it on the head. At best, he should be in the junior welterweight division, not the welterweight division. When he fought Canelo Alvarez, he was just a junior middleweight, So nobody loves Josecito Lopez more than me. I wonder if the Andre Berto's size will be too much. I just want to look into who's going to be in his corner, because he did make a change in his last fight, but that seems so long ago. So I don't have my official prediction yet, but I will make it within the next 24 hours. But great job as usual on that, Dax. And one quick question before I let you go. Amir Khan against Broner. Broner's calling him out, saying that he wants to make the fight. He said a ridiculous statement like he would fight him at the end of the month. I think it's all BS. I personally think Amir Khan beats the snot out of Adrian Broner. What's your quick thoughts?
Everybody seems to want a piece of Amir Khan lately, don't they?
Well, I mean,
anybody that Amir Khan wants a piece of doesn't seem to want anything to do with him.
Exactly. Great point. Amir Khan calls out somebody they don't want anything to do with him, but everybody else seems to want to fight Amir Khan. You're right. I think they just use his name to try and get their name in the press.
Amir Khan is a better fighter than he has ever gotten credit for. Amir Khan, the biggest things that people use against Amir Khan are his knockout losses. But you know something, Amir Khan has a better chin, like I said, than credited for. I don't know what it is about them British fighters, but his chin kind of reminds me of Lennox Lewis. He got knocked out in fights he shouldn't have. There is not a fighter out there today, Bill, from anywhere from 135 to 154, who could take the onslaught that Marcos Maidana gave to him in that last round, and the second to last round, I think it was, and manage, to stay on his feet. Amir Khan did that. That showed that, his chin, it is more durable than what you think it is. His hand speed, he has the fastest hands in boxing, pound for pound. I don't care what anybody says. The way he throws his combinations together, he's dangerous. You got to love the way this guy fights. He seems to be getting better as time goes on. As far as Adrian Broner, let me tell you something. Adrian Broner still has not learned how to avoid an overhand right. Adrian Broner has to set a slow pace. Adrian Broner has to get rid of that shoulder roll. He's not going to do that anytime soon. You know, if Amir Khan has answered the challenge, Amir Khan has said, set the contracts out. He sent it out on all his personal social media pages, his authentic Twitter accounts. You know, he's been giving some interviews. He wants that fight so bad. And you know something? For that fight to take place, it's going to be at 147 pounds. If Adrian Broner was able to get tagged by a Paulie Malignaggi, who had already been battle-worn by the time they fought, just think what Amir Khan's going to do to him. You know, this is the type of fight right here that could put Adrian Broner out of the sport for good, just out of embarrassment.
Yeah, you hit it on the head. And you know what? You make a great point about the Maidana. I thought that was one of the stupidest things that Amir Khan has ever did. He tried to show that he had a chin, and you don't stand in there and let a guy like Maidana throw those punches at you. But you're right. He did end that fight on his feet. I can't see Broner fighting Amir Khan, and you're right. He could, aside from Manny Pacquiao. Well, actually, Manny Pacquiao has slowed down a little bit. Yeah, Amir Khan. You know what? After Pacquiao and Floyd, Amir Khan, it could very well be that next guy at welterweight. I mean, really.
And in terms of hand speed, he's faster than Pacquiao or Floyd is when you look at him.
Yeah.
And as in terms of where he stands at welterweight. I'm not really sure. I don't know. But, here's one thing you got to understand, too, with, Amir Khan's chin, against Danny Garcia, something, he was giving Danny Garcia hell. Once again, he got a little overconfident and a little overcocky. That's why I compared him to Lennox Lewis. Lennox did the same thing. Bradis Prescott, he got caught cold, and that was early in his career. We've seen a lot of guys, Hall of Famers and all-time greats, get caught cold. And this is what people pretty much base Amir Khan's weak chin on. And, Marcos Maidana, as I said before, that's the guy right there who, pound for pound, when they fought, might have been, in the top 5 of hardest hitters in the sport. And Amir Khan managed to last through that round, no question about it. That was stupid on his behalf. But, if he was able to stand up and take that type of punishment, for that long, I think it was a good 30 seconds where Maidana was just letting go on him. Somebody like Adrian Broner, who couldn't stand up to Marcos Maidana's punches, and not even Marcos's best punches, I don't think he's going to sit there and he's going to drop Amir Khan. He's not going to outbox Amir Khan. He's not faster than Amir Khan. And Amir Khan would sit there and have a field day with the subpar shoulder roll.
He's not even going to fight Amir Khan. He was just full of beans. But anyway, great job as usual, Dax, and we'll look forward to you either tomorrow or definitely on the post-fight show. You're going to be showing up for the post-fight show, right?
Of course, wouldn't miss it.
Yeah, you got nothing else to do, right? You're not allowed to go out or nothing, are you?
Yeah, no.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you later.
All right, have a good one, everybody.
That's Daxx Khan. You can check out his column up on BillyCBoxing.com. And listen, I'm going to take a short break. And when I come back, you know what? I think I'm going to talk a little boxing.
Talking Boxing with Billy C. Every week, 2 hours of the best boxing talk on the radio.
I have a bunch of questions, Donnell, right? If you feel like you want to, you can answer for JD first. Why will you win? JD Chapman, why will you win?
Maybe Holmes will get sick and get hit by a train that day on the way to the fight, or he might have diarrhea, he might have the flu, he might throw up. One of his eyeballs might fall out that day, and I might get lucky.
Talking Boxing with Billy C.